but we've otherwise stuck to the plan here. So we're making progress, and whatever time we have left, let me just sort of trigger a little bit of discussion, and then afterwards we'll throw it open to the audience. You know, the last speaker, of course, kept using the term next generation, right? And one of the key questions is, what are the next generation practices that we need to adopt and inculcate? You know, we have public sector entities here, you have a private sector player, etc. And in this conversation that we've been having about vendors, another term came up earlier, vendors as partners, right? So is there a mindset change? Are there rules that need to change? Is there a particular kind of, you know, in the NIL case, they've created an incubator, they've created a non-profit kind of a company that provides a different platform for engagement. You know, what else is out there that needs to be done? You know, you were saying, come and engage with you, but I don't know what their experience has been in trying to engage with you, right? So what kind of new systems or you know, something that works, that will bring about a better partnership between the vendor base and the kinds of organizations that we have represented here, and that will really strengthen the collaboration, the ability to really take things forward. Anyone want to respond to this? Not everyone doesn't have to. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so one of the things that we found particularly hard as a private player is to be engaged in any government program where essentially a private entity needs to do the work and retain the IPR. We find a lot of proposals out that develop this for me, and by the way, all the IPR belongs to me. I'm the government, I'm mandating that, and it is, for us, it's not interesting. So for a lot of the MSMEs, the ownership of the IPR and the key ideas is what they are going to use to grow their business. The government cannot unilaterally say, all of this belongs to me, and if you need to sell it, you need to get permission from me. I mean, it's just the wrong way of looking at the problem, I feel.
You are very blunt, you've noticed, and the basic point is, you know, this is the defense sector, and the government, of course, would have its own constraints on what they're willing to share and what they're not. But the point is very well taken, that from the company's point of view, from the developer's point of view, if you can't keep the fruit of your investments and build on that in the future, reach out to larger markets. If you recall, the Israel example that he gave talked about not just thinking about the Indian defense sector as a potential market, but to actually think about a global market. Now that again is you know, opening our minds to a different set of aspirations. Why can't we be out there? Why are we thinking only about, you know, making in India for India? We should be thinking about making in India for the rest of the world, possibly in collaboration with others. And then this particular challenge, the whole IPR issue and who owns it, becomes a central factor. That's something, of course, that maybe requires policy change, you know, on the part of various establishments here. But that's very well taken. I'll stop here. Questions from the audience, issues that you want to raise? Yes, no, yes. And if you can identify who you want this to, if you have a specific question.
I'm from NIAS. I just wanted to make a small comment on the IPR. The 2016, I think, innovation policy which the government has enunciated, this clause is taken into account, both the confidentiality aspect as well as the IPR sharing with the vendors is one point. Maybe you need to look at it again and see. I also understand there'll be between what is written as a policy and its practice, there'll be some misses, but I think there's one positive thing that will happen in the innovation policy.
Yes, there, Mr.
My name is Dr. Raghu Rao. I run a company out of Bangalore and have a facility in Moscow producing AESA radars. I agree with Dr. Singh for one simple reason is that, you know, I was one of the bidders for the HAL AESA radar. HAL has gone and asked for AESA radars to be built by foreign vendors, and in the process they said the foreign vendors can keep their IPRs. Whereas when I'm building the same radar with commercially off-the-shelf components, I'm asked to give the IPR. It's being pretty unfair.
So, and new innovation policy, how does that deal with this issue? Any idea? We don't know that. Oh, well, but this is certainly an area for exploration. But many of the talks here focused on, the vendors interacting with the companies, engaging with the companies, building the MSME base, etc. Any points from you, from your experiences engaging with government entities, with others? Anyone else wants to chip in? Yes.
This is related to something that Dr. Singh just mentioned. While the government in most cases does ask for the IP to be retained, in case it is being funded by them, and but now the policy is on the change. In the make procedure, where the government is putting 80% or now the 90% of the funding, the IPs that get developed can be used by the industry for their own use as long as it is not being exported. In case of its being exported, then subject to the government's permission and to the country it is being exported, it can still be done. So there is some change which is coming on the policy, but the point that you made is absolutely valid. Ultimately, what will the government do with the IP? It's of no use to the government. It's for the use of the industry, and it should remain with the industry to be exploited for the better of the nation.
Yeah, the point is understood that there are things that you can do, but the very fact that you have to ask for somebody's approval and you have no clarity whether this approval will come or not is a deterrent. So if there can be sort of more clarity in terms of, like for example, the US doesn't export, there are export control regime, and it is very clear what can or cannot be exported. Right here in India, I am not aware if there is such a clear guideline of what the export control policy is.
The policy is just about a month back. It has been agreed at the apex level that we will sign the export control, the Wassenaar, as well as the Australia group. So once you sign that, then you become in the Committee of the Nations and acceptable for interaction with other countries as well. So there is a change which is happening, and it is a positive.
One of the problems is a technical wage. For example, when the American company develops something for the American defense industry, it does go through a verification policy and certification. So the certification agencies are able to look at the IP. But it is kept covered and it's sealed with the certification agency. Same thing will happen here. If this gentleman is going to make a radar in India, he definitely has to share with the concerned certification authorities. But obviously, I completely agree that the government will not be able to exploit it further, unless otherwise it wants to create competition by sharing it with other industry and generating business.
Joseph?
Yeah, but IP and IP is a very complex issue. And IPR is an even more difficult issue because the lawyers get involved. The 2 points which are very, very important and very, very pertinent, and the role of DIIA, which we are wanting to move forward with. On the make policy and the changes, some of us have really lobbied, and some of the changes on piece of paper have happened. But the moment there is somebody in the government who has to give a positive endorsement that you can now go and sell, that is not going to happen. So I think as industry, as people who understand these issues, we have to also talk and try and bring in that consensus which clearly says we in India are people who understand what is national interest. The second and a very important point which has also happened, which is India signing the MPCR, which allows a lot of capital goods to also start to come in. More importantly, the capital goods control regime is, which it's not just the equipment, it's the capital goods regime which is also controlled along with the MCTR and Fastener Group and everything else. So there is a lot of work which needs to be done. IDSA is one of the think tanks of the government which is trying and moving there. We are engaging with them. We had created an industry group and partnership at one point in time before some of these changes were being initiated. But one of the major problems is that if you have to really implement the Fastener Group and the kind of controls, even in America, the bureaucracy in America is 1,500 strong to implement all those controls. In India, there are not even 5 people. So, if a positive endorsement has to be given, then it is very, very difficult that it would happen. So, one of the things which we need to do, and I would request, and we are building a partnership with the academia, with others, and larger and smaller agencies, that these issues need to be brought in. As the industry association, we will try and bring concrete case studies forward and try and solve the problem. I believe that the intention now is to solve the problem and not to just put wool over the eyes and just make it move, go away. So I think we have to do it together to make what is really making India.
Thank you. Well, for the final comment, I want to go back to the first presenter. He talked about the Brahmos experience, and it struck me that there was some secret ingredient in that particular story. What was so special that made everything work?
Actually, Brahmos' success originates from that idea of Dr. Kalam, who picked up this project to be taken forward. One. Second, the team, the visionaries, including the bureaucracy that was involved in making this JV with the terms and conditions that are there today. In 1992 onwards, they negotiated. The whole process started in 1992, and they could make a JV in 1998. And the ingredients were very, very amazing, that both countries will put in money, that both countries will give their product, which is already developed, without charging the development cost. Now imagine, if that kind of a thing is there, then it is bound to succeed. And the leadership itself was amazing. And it was a leadership which was go-getters leadership of Dr. Pillai. Then the people who were chosen, initially taken in the company, again, that was an exercise, and he had an eye to pick people who could produce results. And the faith that was created in the environment without product being there. And that environment means industry partners and the users. Why would user give one ship if he doesn't have a faith? Why would the army put complete core team with the design agency if they didn't have faith? So I think it is amalgamation of various innovative ideas as also the strong ownership with a good leadership that made this program success.
Thank you. That was very inspiring and something that we must emulate and replicate and